So I was in Hagerstown where we talked about Homeland Security money that a private sector firm has won that I put in the federal checkbook that will build planes for border surveillance to protect our borders against illegal drug dealers, illegal aliens, and the illegal trafficking in weapons. So they're like kind of the technology and the beat, exactly the kind of new manufacturing we want here in Western Maryland. So we're not up there with Boeing, but we're certainly will be able to provide over close to 500 jobs there. We'll be talking to the people at Luke Mill, otherwise known as New Page, in terms of how are they doing, what is the impact of the regs on a company like New Page from EPA, and also there are certain tax things related to things they call the liquid gold phenomena, which I am part of a bipartisan coalition to protect our paper manufacturers, that if we can give tax breaks to send jobs overseas, we can give tax breaks to our local mills to keep jobs here. So it's about jobs, 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 which then goes to our mayors in terms of public safety, the role in workforce education. We're so proud of Frostburg. We're looking at attracting other opportunities, 2 great community colleges in Garrett and Allegheny. So that's what we're talking about, how the federal government can help these rural communities in tight budget times where they're competing not only for limited federal funds, but against big other governments, and how we can help them. And I'm on their side. Do you have a question?
Yes, Senator. Greg Larry with the Cumberland Times News. Can you give us an update on how things are going with the log jam, with the sequester, and is that progress being made?
Last week we broke the log jam in 2 major areas. In March, we were hit by the convergence of 3 big issues. Sequester, that was triggered on March 21st, an across-the-board cut of $88 billion in both defense and in our discretionary, in our domestic programs. The other was the March 27th expiration of the funding for the entire federal government, and then also that the Senate hasn't passed the budget in 4 years. So what did we do last week? Led by 2 dynamic chairmen who are women, me and Senator Patty Murray. What I was able to do, working on a bipartisan basis with my counterpart, Republican counterpart, Senator Shelby of Alabama, we passed the continuing funding resolution for the federal government. It passed 76 to 23. That's called bipartisan. And then we were able to work with the House. They had passed one. It was a little skimpy and Spartan. We were able to judiciously add to it. Like we were able to add $700 million in transportation funding. That's jobs money, jobs money, jobs money. You build a road here, that job's not going to China. Okay? So we passed that and we broke the logjam. So there is no, if we had not done that, there would have been a government shutdown. All federal funding would have stopped except for national security. Okay? So we broke that logjam, and then Senator Murray led us in a marathon. We voted until 5 o'clock in the morning Saturday, where we passed a fiscal 14 budget, the first time in 4 years. So we broke the logjam in 2 areas, the continuing funding resolution and the fiscal 14, which gives the framework for reappropriations. It gives top line. It doesn't give line by line. The sequester is still here. That's on top of whatever is the funding for the year under something called the Budget Control Act. We have to cut we have to cut public debt by $110 billion every year for 10 years. Because of lower interest rates, reduced cost in health care. This year was down to 88. That's where sequester comes in. Well, that's being worked out with the President, Speaker Boehner, and so on. You hear all that charm offensive, that's what's going on. So that's what we need to crack, and I believe that within the next 6 to 8 weeks they'll be working on a hard and fast agreement to do that. Is that?
Yeah, thank you.
And that was a whole thing. Did that help explain it?
Yeah, very much so.
Wasn't it complicated?
Yeah.
That's why I sit around breaking every No, all three things were happening in March, and it's very hard to understand. But I think what we tried to show last week was we want to be bipartisan and bicameral, the House and the Senate. And really, Senator Shelby and I wanted to set a tone that we want to get out of this ultimatum politics, this brinkmanship politics, this cliff-hanging politics, that, you know, the business of American government needs to be calm, judicious, and we should agree on our processes and procedures. We're going to disagree on policy, but the process should help us resolve these disputes. Offer amendments, debate, vote, get it done, and not just do it. Let's talk with each other, not just talk at each other through cable TV moderators. Nothing wrong with cable TV. Nothing ever wrong with the media. Do you have a question?
Yes, Senator.
Amanda, can you come over?
Oh, yeah,
that
sure,
way?
sure. What do you say to folks who are struggling here, and when they hear about the sequester, they just kind of roll their eyes and go, okay, what does this mean for me? Why does this matter?
Well, the first thing is no government shutdown. In other words, there is federal funds that come to this county, particularly like the area of education, something called Title I, money for special education. We don't want to have shutdown politics. Then the other is that we have to get back to really having a Congress that functions, that we just don't do it through the processes of delay, yelling at each other, giving ultimatums and brinkmanship. We've got to sit down and talk with each other about what's going on and find a way to find common ground. So let's take me. I joined, you know, everybody knows I'm from Baltimore, a big city, but I joined the Rural Caucus in Education because I'm going to be sure whatever the federal rules and legislative framework, that our rural counties don't have unfunded federal mandates, that they don't get the same rules as New York City, and that we have a structure that recognizes that they have smaller populations over large geographic areas, and how can we help them, and how can we help them not only with not a lot of hard rules, but how do we help them particularly in the kind of education they need to compete in the 21st century. Because we hope that Allegheny, Garrett, Western Maryland becomes part of the new kind of manufacturing that's coming back to America, and how we can look at what are other sources. Like we've got a new kind of manufacturing coming to Hagerstown with that airplane factory that I talked about. Does it look like Boeing, act like Boeing? It is not Boeing. It makes small planes that can travel what they call low and slow over the border with the latest and greatest technology that will help us protect our border against illegal trade in people, drugs, and weapons.
Nice.
That's pretty good. Don't you think that's pretty cool?
Yeah.
And that's what we would like to see more up here in the mountain counties, which is why I'm a big supporter of broadband. I really do believe that we need broadband, and broadband is here, but if we can look at how to take broadband the last mile into the central business district, it will be a magnet for what we need to attract. And also, you can't have modern manufacturing without having broad internet capacity and so on. Okay.
Anybody have any final questions?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.